Hello viewers, I'm SB and welcome back to Sunless Skies. We've reached the inconceivable circus, and we have some unusual questions for our friend the humiliated magician. Let's see what he has to say. He is a magician, after all. The magician contemplates the fortunate navigator. On your back, that is a body, not a mannequin? No, actually, I'd rather not know. He shifts so that Alton is not in view. You could try Peppercorn's daughter. Followed him into the business. She could even pull off his grand finale from when he was at Mahogany Hall. She's a traveling magician. She leaves some of her large props with me and returns to swap them when she's creating a new performance. I've no idea when she'll next return. It's always a delightful surprise. He does not sound delighted. You'll have to find her. She goes between Lustrum, Titania, and Port Prosper. Okay, well, I can certainly do that. So, I guess I'll start recording again when we find her. We'll see you then. Well, we're not exactly in Albion. I was swinging past the signal box in the Reach on my way out to Lustrum to look for the magician, and check this out. There's a guy here. You detect a whiff of cigarette smoke as you enter. A man in a gray uniform and gray bowler rises from a chair. Evening. I don't suppose you're looking for a signaler. He does not sound hopeful. How long has he been waiting here? Okay, so it turns out there are some crew members that we just missed, apparently, until just now. He is startled by your response. Oh, right. I was expecting you to say no, to be honest. You ask what he was doing here. I work the Isambard line. I'm the last one, I suppose. Hitch rides between the boxes, make repairs, sweep up a bit. But I could do with a change of scene. He seems unsure. Well, I'd better get my things together. He packs up a modest hold-all and checks his hat is on his head. Yeah, I think that's everything. After you, sister. Okay, so we have recruited a new crew member. And I guess let's have a quick chat with him. You can see some things have not been going super... Yeah, listen, we're fine. This is 20 hull. 20 hull is is pretty close to infinity here in the Reach. Probably I'm not even going to get us blown up. He is professional enough to prevent his mood from impacting his work. He has no qualms about it infecting the other crew members, however. So, plus mirrors is kind of nice. He gives us +1 gloomy guidance. You know, our aunt used to give us something similar. Did we pick this guy up before, maybe with the first character? His mustache is stained with nicotine. His Isambard line uniform is neatly pressed. He always expects the worst, confident in the knowledge that he will still be disappointed. He is reticent by nature, but can be coaxed into conversation over depressing stories with horrible endings. Well, we know a few of those. Soon you are engaged in dismal competition. You raise the sad fate of Parliament and the tragic disappearance of the HML Parsifal. He counters with a story of his own past. I worked on the Isambard line. It was meant to ring the whole Reach, a chain of accelerators and hour funnels to speed locomotives between the outer ports. Doomed from the start it was. Some said cursed, but I reckon building a road around the sky is just bloody difficult. It were never finished. He slurps his tea. I'd like to take a proper tour of the Reach, see exactly how stupid we were. Accumulate 6 Reach port reports. Well, that'll be easy enough. Okay. Turns out, if we do, in fact, have to drop the Repentant Devil off at the Blue Kingdom permanently, at least we'll have somebody to take his place. We find ourselves in Lustrum, still chasing that magician, and I stopped in to visit Mr. Penny's, and it turns out he is indeed, somehow related to Mr. Barleycorn. Maybe the same kind of creature? Whatever is going on underneath his hood there? He looks pathetic in comparison, but there must be a connection. Mr. Penny's pounces on the seal. The Seneschal, it wheezes. 1 of 7. Still loyal? Yes, always loyal. Always waiting for reward. No reward for those who serve the messengers. Always outcasts. Always disappointed. Here, take seal. May help. Well, okay. Yeah, sure. It may help. I'm still not exactly clear on what's going to happen if we, He just kind of asked us to see if we could meet any other people who were like him, and we're doing that, but, to what end? I don't know, man. Why do we do anything in the sky anymore? Anyway, the whole reason we came here, really, was to ask after this magician. Fortunate Navigator wants to see a tiger and needs a magician to do so. Let's have a look around. Okay, well. The urchin takes your sovereign before answering your question. I know of her, wears a toff's outfit but isn't one, and does all sorts with handkerchiefs. He peers at the Fortunate Navigator's companion strapped to his back. Is he sleeping or dead? He's dead, isn't he? Did you lose a bet? Anyway, the magician left yesterday. Don't know where she's going. Still, narrowed down the list. Okay. Well, there's not that many places left that she could be. Alright, well, the magician also wasn't at Titania, so she basically has to be here, right? If I know anything about how checking items off lists goes, it's gotta be. This has gotta be it. If the traveling magician Miss Peppercorn can't draw a crowd in this bustling port, she'd better retire. An engineer points toward the far end of the docks, where a woman in a battered tailcoat ferries boxes onto an engine. She beams as you approach. The Great Peppercorn, that's me. I've just finished here, but I'll be back, don't worry. The navigator's wide-eyed request for a private demonstration, one requiring skills only she possesses, catches at her pride. Glasswork? Well, I understand. I am the best. She shakes her head. I just don't have the equipment with me. Tell you what, I'll meet you at Polmere and Plenty's. I'll get my speculo miraculum ready. She smiles. And because I like you, I'll only charge you 200 sovereigns for the travel. Yeah, well, all right. 200 sovereigns is not something we have to worry about anymore. It's the principle. You know, I'm just a little bit insulted. Also, we just collected a port report here at Port Prosper, which is, I believe, if I've been counting correctly, our 6th port report from the Reach. So, have you seen enough now? As you stopped at each port on your journey, the signalman spoke with other signalers. He has filled a set of dog-eared notebooks and is now collating their contents into a book. He stiffens as you approach, as if you've caught him doing something he shouldn't. When people outside the trade don't understand how signaling works, every port, every corner of the sky, has its own signs and messages. It's a right mess. I've been cataloging them, the semaphores, the lamp languages, the badges and passphrases. Not that anyone will ever read it. He puts the pages into his holdall, suddenly embarrassed. Anyway, I've been meaning to ask. Traveling has stirred up old memories. I'd like to visit a friend in London. We'll find her at the Steam and Sapphire Yards. She won't remember me, but I should try. Okay, well, convenient for you, that is where we're headed. Alright, well, we've flown all over the Reach for this. Hopefully, there's no way she has a tiger, right? I was about to say hopefully she actually has a tiger. Am I stupid? There's no way there's a... Alright, let's just give her the money and get whatever this is over with. She stands beside a full-length mirror framed in ornately patterned bronze. She's delighted to see you. Do you have the money for the fuel? Miss Peppercorn transfers the coins from one hand to the next. With a wiggle of her fingers, the coins are gone. She basks in the navigator's conspicuous delight. You're all right, you are. She nods toward Alton, once more on the navigator's back. And I've had worse audiences than your gray friend. At least he's not throwing anything. Wow, I'm actually really running low on... We're going to have to sell some of the stuff we got banked. Sorry, I think I have about 40 gourds of chorister nectar. I've surpassed my father, you know, and he could fill Mahogany Hall. She pats the navigator's arm. I'm certainly the only person who could do this as cheaply, and with as few accoutrements. In fact, I only need one more thing. Of course she needs something else. The navigator looks decidedly crestfallen. Even the jovial piping of the Circus Calliope cannot cheer him. I need a cat. I will not catch one for you, she scowls. And once you have one, you better keep an eye on it. I don't like the gossiping little things. They're too fond of scandal to be trustworthy. Okay, that's... Wow. What a coincidence that we just happen to have one. Offer the magician a useless cat. At last, a use. You will not lose the useless cat, however much you might wish to. Or we could try to catch... I guess we could try to catch a cat here if we weren't lucky enough to have this useless cat. Miss Peppercorn places a plush red velvet cushion before the full-length mirror. She addresses the cat in your arms. I forbid you from sitting on that cushion. It is my favorite. You will only ruin it. Wow, yeah, that is going to work for sure. The cat squirms free. It leaps straight to its inevitable destination, the cushion. There it freezes, mesmerized by its own reflection. That's pretty... She knows a thing or two about cats. That's pretty sharp. The mirror reflects a steaming jungle of thick ferns and amber light. Dappled light pours down on the useless cat's reflection. It is a tiger, vast and strong. The cat, or the tiger, yawns slowly, admiring its fangs. The useless cat and its reflection begin kneading, the tiger's thick claws flexing, the cat's thin claws shredding the cushion. The fortunate navigator gasps. The useless cat blinks smugly. The cat hasn't seen anything it didn't already suspect. You glimpsed a moment in Parabola, where every cat is a big cat. Okay, well that was certainly something. While we're here, let's just duck behind the tents and talk to the ringmaster. I just did something for... Oh, I did something for the strong woman. We put up her posters. Oh, you know what? I'm supposed to put up her posters in multiple places, aren't I? Okay, never mind. I'll do that. I'll worry about that off camera. Okay, was that what you were looking for? Needs a moment of inspiration. Fortunately, we've come by a lot of them recently. He only speaks when questioned. He has missed the last 3 crew poker nights. You'll need to tease out what's caused his change in mood. Yeah, that's actually kind of disappointing. I was getting used to having somebody who was actually, like, happy on board. You find the navigator in a quiet corridor to the rear of the engine. He is staring out the window. When you speak, he jumps. Damn! Oh, sorry, Captain. I thought I was alone. He takes you back to his cabin. It is tidy. His desk is empty but for a fresh journal. His clothes are neatly folded on his footlocker. Altan's body lies in the bed. The body wears only the garments it wore in the graveyard. We have one last journey to make. One last adventure. It'll be an ending fit for King Gissar himself. I want to take Altan to death's door. In the Blue Kingdom. Okay, we can do that, eventually. So, I suppose, this time for real, when next we see you, we'll be in London. Alright, back in London to consult with our queen. It does seem a little silly to me. Like, we have the information. We know where the cup is, or at least we know where we were told it is. Shouldn't we have just gone directly there? I don't know. I guess the queen wants to have her say. Let us descend once more to the to the Under London, and find ourselves another ring worth another 50 sovereigns. It's possible that we don't have to worry about money anymore. It might be the case that I don't have to spend as much time in the Reach as I do every time we cut back through there. I know it says we only have 2,000 sovereigns on us, but the bank that we have accumulated is very impressive. Alright. The Unseen Queen awaits us on the throne of Rust. We are not, at this moment, interested in swearing fealty. Okay, so I'm already in aware of what's going on mode. We can see the scrap metal throne and the faded portrait. Okay. The location of the cup is in a vault within the Kingdom of Death. It seems like a problem. The Grey Conformer believes accessing it is impossible. It sounds impossible. At last, we know where the Sun's daughter has hidden her shame. The Queen doesn't sound disheartened. She sounds euphoric. Don't worry about the Conformer's pessimism, my knight. Piranesi has altered her. She no longer understands the possibilities offered to us by dreams and moonlight. In order to access the Arbiter's vault, we shall use the minute to midnight. You retrieve the Chamberlain's battered fountain pen from your pocket. This? Precisely. But that is just a piece of the whole. We will need to unite all the scattered fragments of the minute. Then we can use it to puncture the Arbiter's defenses, as she punctured my father's. She pauses, awaiting your next question. Yeah, is this the first time that the Unseen Queen has mentioned her father? Once again, fallen prey a little bit here to playing the game an hour a day over a very long period of time. Okay. There are 1,000 minutes in the hands of 1,000 questers. How am I going to do this? I assume we must have some kind of way of drawing them to us, because hunting them all down individually seems like the sort of thing that you maybe could only do if you already had a cup that gives you infinite life. I will send messengers to all my questers across the wilderness, says the Unseen Queen, announcing a grand tournament, vast, magnificent, brutal, unlike anything seen before. Questers will face each other in honorable combat. At day's end, one victor will have collected the swords from every one of their opponents. How long does she need? The tournament will begin in 2 weeks, says the Queen. Silence settles across the wasteland. A gust of wind scatters scraps of paper across her lonely throne. Okay. I'm trying to remember, it was not super difficult for us to get the fountain pen away from the last guy, but I guess I was about to say, I don't know if we're going to be able to fight 1,000 people, but probably a lot of them will, fight each other and sort of consolidate the shards down a little bit. Alright, well, we have 15 days to just sort of run around and do stuff. Fortunately, we do have some things worth doing. Let's just see ourselves out here. UI's being a little unresponsive right now, and I'm not 100% sure why. Okay, so we've taken on a few prospects. We do need to go to the mausoleum to turn in these seeds and also some Navartine gemstones. You can see I've already got them in the bank. We also ought to drop off these panes of stained glass at Whorlberry, and we need to go to the mausoleum anyway for the next step of the princess quest. Speaking of quests... Oh, actually, you know what? Sorry. We need to go back into London. I'm pretty sure the signalman's next thing... I was looking at this while I was setting up. His thing is in London, right? Yeah. Okay, at the Steam and Sapphire Yards. Also, have I turned in my port reports yet? Okay, yes, I have. Let's look for the fatalistic signalman's old friend. The only address the signalman has for his friend is Shed 4 at the Yards. He will only reveal her first name, Charlotte. Unfortunately, Shed 4 is off limits, ringed with a wire fence, and under the guard of a pinched watchman and his barely tamed hounds. Well, we certainly can't afford to exchange otherworldly artifacts for stuff. We have a ton of them. Yeah, alright, the watchman is a hoarder with a morbid curiosity about the indigenous occupants of the high wilderness. Listen, buddy, take it from me. The less you know about that, the better, I think. The watchman coos at your gift and adds it to the incomprehensible jumble of objects crowding his shelves. It goes between a roll of crackling parchment, which he claims originated in the library of the scribe spinsters, and a rubbery skull. Sorry, that might be a skull that is rubbery, but it also might be a rubbery skull, which I guess would be a squid? Do squids have skeletons? Okay, whatever, I'm getting sidetracked here. He waves you through, and the grumbling dogs watch petulantly as you sidle past. Shed 4 is a huge storehouse. Beams of solemn starlight slant from grubby windows in the roof. The hulks of old locomotives rust here, from battered tugs to fat old liners once packed with emigrating Londoners. The signalman heads off between the wrecks. Should we just leave him to it then? Maybe he doesn't want me intruding. The signalman stops before a stately old wreck with flaking navy blue paint. This is her. None worked harder on the Isambard line than she did. You look at the nameplate. The Charlotte Guest. Ah, look how they left her, he says gloomily. That's not right. You tidy up, you put things in order, you turn the lights off and close up before you go. She deserved better than this. Okay, well... we cannot arrange for her to be put on display in a museum because I didn't bring enough bronze wood, but I mean, we could still do this. The New Street Line has engines to maintain, and this is a good cause. I don't know that I think it's necessarily useful to put a beat-up old train in a museum, even if I could make that happen. Then again, I kind of wonder. Like, this just requires you to be in favor with the New Street Line. Okay, that's 2,000 sovereigns. What I was going to say there is, I kind of wonder if maybe this is the option that gives a better result, because a cryptic benefactor is sort of hard to come by. But with this being 2,000 sovereigns, probably these are both fine options, because they're both pretty expensive. She'll never fly again, but her bones and sinews could be put to good use. The New Street Line has engines to maintain. And you have to think the signalman would want the parts to be put to some kind of actual use, right? Some inquiries reveal the Charlotte guest is technically owned by a firm of lawyers who claimed her among the assets of a bankrupt client. Being lawyers, they do not part with her cheaply. The signalman, though, is pleased. 10 years she ferried us around the Reach, lugging hours and wood and machinery. She were a working engine. It's right she should find work now, too. Even secret work. He rests his hand on her plating. Godspeed, Charlotte. The walk back to your locomotive is quiet. The signalman, lost in thought, vanishes into his quarters. Okay, well, I'm glad to have helped him out a little bit, and we got some new street lighting gratitude along with it. Oh, you know what else we should do while we're here before I forget? Actually, is pick up another... where do we do this? I need to pick up another contract to drop off a new street line passenger. Yes, the Firebrand Conductor. Here we go. From Worldbury to Lustrum. Okay, that's extremely doable. We were headed to Worldbury anyway. Okay, is there anything else that we needed to do before we leave? Most of our crew want us to go to the Blue Kingdom. Oh, right. We have to talk to the eccentric. I had not actually remembered to move her quest forward after the last event we saw with her. Dissuade one of the eccentric's cats from terrorizing a stoker. This does seem dangerous, because I'm really starting to get the feeling that these cats are maybe a little more than meets the eye. The man is pressed against the wall, white-faced and sweating. The cat sits in front of him, its back to you. It stares at the stoker, though from here you can't see why this terrifies him. Get it away! The stoker pleads. It's weighing my soul, judging it like I was one of the dead. He tries to raise his hands to shield his gaze, but the life seems to have gone out of them. They flop limply back to his sides. The cat is statue still. Well, it does seem like I ought to do something. You can't let a cat feel like it has the run of the place, because you'll never really get it back under control. Let's try to frighten the cat away and hope that I don't suffer any serious otherworldly consequences. Although I will say that suffering serious otherworldly consequences is absolutely sort of in our character's idiom at this point. So we clap our hands, shout at it, stamp our feet. The cat's head whips around to face you. You stumble back. Instead of eyes, 2 writhing sigils of savage fire blaze in its face. It blinks. The sigils are gone, replaced by its usual supercilious yellow gaze. It hisses at you and stalks away. Stoker thanks you and hurries away. Acquire a vision of the heavens to continue the eccentric story. Well, good news. I'm pretty sure we have some of those. So this cat has the correspondence, I'm assuming, writhing sigils of savage fire. That's weird. That shouldn't be that way. Let's try to talk to one of the cats. Apparently, yeah, I shouldn't be surprised by this. Of course the cats can talk. Everything else can. They can be polite, but like to give the impression they know more than you do. And perhaps they do, for they are hoarders of secrets. Yo, a cat is nowhere near as good at hoarding secrets as a rat is. That's ridiculous. The cats do not respond to your greeting. When you ask about their relationship to the eccentric, one of them yowls. Another washes its paw. The third yawns. You comment critically on their lack of courtesy. They only stare. You see no comprehension in their eyes. You try the ultimate test. You share a secret, careful to get one detail wrong. They don't correct you, and they don't patronize you. They don't even give you a disdainful look. These are not cats. Yeah, something very strange is going on here. We should be more careful before we invite people on the locomotive. I had the right idea when I was just leaving her ass in port. Ah well, we're committed now. Your dreams are plagued by a star wind, moaning and mournful. In lieu of sleep, you walk the corridors for a time. A mysterious noise is coming from the engine room. Okay, well, how many visions of heavens do I have? Okay, yeah. Enough that I won't miss this one. The eccentric is asleep in her tangle of blankets at the foot of the engine. 3 hunched shapes cluster about her. Her cats. So, quote-unquote cats. One of them gnaws at the fingers of the eccentric's left hand. Another sits on her chest, its weight making her struggle for breath. The third chews insistently at her hair, tugging at it like yarn. The eccentric is caught in a dream. Her sleepy attempts to dislodge the cats watery and weak. "Spiders in the well," she moans. "My eyes were fire. The dead groveled." One of the cats looks up, then the others. As one, they consider you, their eyes yellow as sovereigns. Then they melt into the crannies of the engine room. Yeah, I think we should, in fact, have some words about this. I'm curious what she knows about the cats. Like, does she think that they're just normal cats? You discovered them chewing and smothering her while she slept. Why does she tolerate this? She's got to have some idea, at least, right? Her black cat, Belith, climbs up her legs with its claws and sprawls about her shoulders. Because they're mine, or I'm theirs. I'm not sure there's a difference. Look, I don't want to make a fuss. Best to just leave it alone. She removes the bandages on her fingers to reveal the tracery of light scars. See, it's not so bad. She tries to sound brisk. You are clearly unconvinced. The eccentric sighs. They've been with me since Piranesi, she says. If you really must know, we'll need to go there. The chaplains can explain. Well, shoot, that's inconvenient. I don't really want to go all the way back to Piranesi. I kind of thought we were headed to the Blue Kingdom next. I don't know. We'll consider this. Maybe one more trip to Pan, because we do have some more business to conclude there. Makes sense. We could offer to get rid of her cats by more direct means. I sense that there will be consequences for this. Let's maybe not even say the words. Right? Can't you see how that would go horribly, horribly wrong? Alright, so let's swing by Whirlberry. Grab the new Street Line passenger, do a little bit of selling. I did just leave port with only 95 sovereigns while having a huge bank full of valuables, which is maybe not the best idea. But we have all of these trade goods, and we have 3 prospects that we can cash in pretty quick succession here. What is this guy doing? He's following me, but from the front. It's a cunning maneuver. I rarely see people attempt that. You get some plausible deniability by just being everywhere shortly before the person you're following gets there. So I've been thinking about whether or not we want to pursue the cult quest line to try to have our own interaction with the Scorn Fluke, and I think we might give it a shot once we have acquired some more commingling of the choirs. So we will fight Scorn Flukes when we see them. Because I am kind of curious what happens if you go down there prepared. I mean, surely it can't be anything as momentous as, like, birthing a new god, right? I think that would have some consequences for the area that are a little grander than the kinds of changes the game has been shown to be willing to make so far. Oh, that was weird. The bells just completely cut out. I guess we must have hit a distance threshold beyond which you are no longer allowed to hear them, but they did not fade out very gracefully. I'm kind of hopeful that when we get to the Blue Kingdom, we'll find that there are new locomotives for sale. I'm just thinking, like, we haven't had anything really to work toward in a while. And I guess that's not true. You know, we have our ambition. Obviously, that's something to focus on. And maybe that's good enough. Well, he knows we're here now. I really do appreciate the little bit of homing you get on this projectile. Because I think we all know that if I was still working with the mangonel, a lot of these would be near misses. Very near misses. Trying to get him to commit. Yeah, there we go. Alright, we got him. I was hoping to avoid bumping into him there. Well, I don't think we need to repair the hull. We've discovered an intriguingly bulging sack. Okay. The Repentant Devil makes me nervous. You know, and he doesn't make me any less nervous now that we're quote-unquote lovers. I'm still not exactly sure how much our rendezvous actually resemble what might be normally termed sex. But hey, whatever. As long as Sister Patel and the devil are having fun, I guess. It doesn't really matter what it is. What a consenting adult does with a devil in the privacy of their own space train is none of my business. Alright, here in the mists we will... Let's see, we can sell some uncanny specimens. I don't really need money. Let's join the Song of the Mist. Just clear out a little bit of terror. Okay, we're going to have to go inside once, right? In order to pick up the passenger. Let's give them all of this stained glass. Oh good, we got our otherworldly artifact back. And we could buy a whole bunch of tea. Sure, why not? You know, I feel like we have a lot of villainous associates, and the only villainy we ever see them get up to is selling us, like, gray market tea. I don't think these guys are really villains in the classical sense. Okay, I definitely want to just trade some uncanny specimens, because we don't have much other use for them. Gonna get ourselves that wonderful, wonderful footwear that we try very hard not to think about when we're not here. Grab the port reports, do this thing, and like I said, I don't think we're going to try to pursue the cult storyline any further at the moment. Let's just use this as an opportunity to reset terror. I think we should be able to burn pretty... Oh no, we're actually going to get all the way down to 0. Let's spend exactly 0 time thinking about the nature of these quote-unquote donkeys. Oh man, but you know what I do love is rubbery lumps. Okay. Succumb to the wiles of a rubbery lump seller. Rubbery, faintly sweet, with a dashing of mirin and brown sugar, and an aftertaste reminiscent of roasted berries. It does not say whether these are things that are sold to us by a rubbery man or not. Because if they're not, I bet they're made of rubbery men. Even if they are sold by a rubbery man, they still could be made of rubbery men. Hey, you know what I didn't do? Was observe the date. So I don't I don't know 15 days from when we are allowed back. Alright, we'll just fly around a little bit. It's not a big deal. So let's try not to get too close to Skyhenge. I think we'll just take the direct route to the Most Serene Mausoleum. Should I fly out here? Like, we should look for more Scornflukes, right? And we did see a lot of Scornflukes over in this area last time we were here. Because I would love to fight one. Maybe a couple. But we do gain a fair amount of terror whenever the thing swims up from below. I don't really want to have to deal with that too much. What did I lure in? Some unidentifiable squirming. You know what? I don't need that. I was kind of hoping it was just going to be another... I've already forgotten what the name of the thing is. Another one of those uncanny specimens. Whatever, it's fine. Let's worry about the... Oops, that's not what I wanted. Let's worry about the Scornflukes later. For right now, let's sort of keep our eyes on the prize. We can come back here and earn our way into the heart of the cult and kill Scornflukes whenever it is convenient. That said, I'm making an awful lot of assumptions about our ability to return from the Blue Kingdom. All I really know about the Blue Kingdom, by the way, never stops really bothering me. The only thing I know about the Blue Kingdom is that last time the last person we knew who went to the Blue Kingdom ended up on fire from the inside with, like, the correspondence carved into her bones. So, yeah, like I'm saying, maybe it's a little bit premature to assume that we will be able to come back. But I'll say this, you know, at least that's a stylish way to go. It's quite a story. I guess if you have to be magically killed... Whoa. You have to be magically killed. You want to be magically killed in a way that's going to generate an interesting tale. Yeah, that's unsettling. You gotta imagine that you want to steer around a thing like that. Especially since it gets the spooky tentacle on the map. Yeah, you would think that the agents of the Horological Office would maybe want to do something about a thing like that. It looks like a warp in the space-time continuum to me. Actually, I wonder if we didn't really pursue the Horological Office questline very far. I wonder if you do end up having to go investigate those things. And again, I guess I'm making a little bit of an assumption that they affect time at all. They look weird enough that they must affect time, is where my thinking is, and if you think about that for even a moment, it's obviously just like a complete nonsense assumption. I blame the game. I blame the pervasive atmosphere of terror. It has addled my brains. They were definitely not addled when I showed up. It's not a pre-existing condition. Okay, so we gotta steer through here. We're probably gonna get jumped by a bunch of grave robbers. We're going to murder the holy hell out of them. I don't think we've ever seen anything come out of that except for Tales of Terror, right? I do not need a Tale of Terror. In fact, last time we were in the Reach, I used Port Avon to reset our terror from a pretty high level, and I think we are north of 40 Tales of Terror and Sky Stories at this point. So probably not something we'll ever have to think about again, at least not with this character. Am I veering too far off? No, this is pretty good. Okay. I am still... Part of me definitely wants to just throw the princess out into space instead of continuing with her plotline, because I feel like I'm putting all of us in some very real, mortal, perhaps existential danger by even just continuing to have her around. But I also think we've gotten to a place where attempting to evict her would be incredibly dangerous. So I guess what I'm saying is we're already screwed. Let's attend a funeral real quick here. We can afford to attend a deathless funeral. It's a higher quality of funeral. We gained ourselves some favor and our terror has fallen. Let's get our port report. And never have too many port reports. And let's turn in our things here. So we're selling some seeds to the mausoleum, and this is marked as special. I don't know if I necessarily think that something in particular is going to happen here, or like what this really means. Maybe by special it just means, hey, this is a prospect that takes you from one of the 4 maps to a different one, which is unusual. A flower seller happily purchases your seeds to grow in his garden. Many people want to leave tribute here. They come from many places. Let me tell you about some of them. Which for some reason gave us an unlicensed chart instead of like Sky Stories or a Vision of the Heavens. And then also we can sell these off. That is a fair amount of cash right there. Gained even more favor. The direful Chamberlain takes your consignment with customary gloom. Serviceable, which is, let's face it, all that we can really hope for. High praise indeed. Okay, and then we could buy ourselves some munitions. I think we're actually a little bit light on munitions right now, so pretty happy to see that. Okay, let's do something that we might regret. What exactly did she want us to do here? Pretty sure this is where we're supposed to go. She would like to visit her father. So that's the prince consort, right? Yeah. Well, we could reduce our terror a little bit more here. I think we're alright. So we can call in a favor to help the princess sneak in unnoticed, or we can just use a moment of inspiration. I do think it's easier to get moments of inspiration than it is to get cryptic benefactors, but I also think we use these for a lot more things. As you can see here, haven't really had a meaningful opportunity to cash one of these in a while. So let's call in a favor. I know some people. We can make this happen. A few words from your well-positioned friends to the direful Chamberlain, and he arranges for your passage. It is no small thing. The guards clear the mausoleum of the general public, and then other guards clear the usual guards. These deaf, trusted elite don blindfolds, and each pull upon a chain around their neck, each revealing a silver key. The princess gathers the keys, examining the intricate filigree scenes they're decorated with. "Oh," she says, "this is of the day my parents met. They were so young then." She turns to the first door and chooses the appropriate key to open it. 7 doors follow, the designs of door and key alike, recapitulating the relationship between Queen and Prince Consort, from those early happy days to his tragic death. As you follow the princess, the doors draw shut behind you. I feel like we're getting way too familiar with the royal family for my taste, especially considering how much we have worked against them and intend to continue working against them in the future. He lies in the center of the structure, mounted on a marble altar, caught in a beam of light, resting on velvet cushions. While the ravages of his illness are quite obvious, he's so well preserved that you could almost think him alive, at which point he coughs. The Prince Consort lives. It is not a life any would wish for, but it is life. Yeah, I thought he was dead. Princess has something to say, and you get to eavesdrop. Oh, joy. Daddy, she says, rushing over, taking his unresponsive hand. I just knew Mother wouldn't give you up to anyone, let alone death. I have such terrific news. I'm to be married, she says. The princess leaves a moment for him to gasp. He's unconscious and so fails to oblige. It's a perfect match. You are aware of the Ur-Devil who was once the Many-Mouthed, whose children are the chorister bees? It's him! It is a trifle complicated, I'll admit. We plan to maintain separate residences. He's trapped eternally down a well. I love him very much, almost as much as I love the status I'll achieve once we're wed. Do I have your permission? A long pause is broken only by a parchment-dry cough as the Prince Regent stirs. The princess bounces, taking it as a yes. Oh, thank you, Daddy, she says. Send my thoughts to Mother. She drops his hand and almost runs from the mausoleum. Okay, well, I'm sort of two minds about having her on the train, like I said, and this has really just deepened each of those positions. If she is wed to an Ur-Devil, then she is, very powerful beyond the ways in which she's already very powerful, and as such, useful to us, but just very deeply terrifying. Okay, which well is it then? Hold on, let's return to the nave. And here, open up our officers panel. Hey, what was all that about a devil eternally trapped in a well? Because you didn't tell me anything about that previously. Part of you doesn't want to know more, but it's an easy part to ignore. Oh, not a devil, my devil, says the incognito princess proudly, rubbing her toes on the dead rug of her old self. The poetical suitor and the analytical suitor are trapped inside bird cages made of bird bones, wailing at the news. We must proceed to the Well of the Wolf, says the princess. It's not a wolf down there. My beloved awaits. Soon we'll be together. Well, not strictly speaking together. That would be disastrous. But at least married. The princess takes your hand and looks you in the eyes. It has been such fun to go on an adventure with a friend, she says. You'll give me away, of course. It is not a question. Sorry, what was that about the dead rug of her old self? There was a time, Elise wanted to watch a little bit of this series, so we did. I watched I watched the first 2 episodes of this over the weekend, and I realized how many times during those first couple of hours I took something to be poetic language when in fact it was trying to be very literal. There was a time when I would maybe have thought that this was like she's shedding her old bachelorette lifestyle. But now I'm very concerned about what exactly is happening in her cabin, on my train. But, okay, we'll go to the Well of the Wolf then, I suppose. Good thing I figured out where it was. So we can, I guess, just buy ourselves some more fuel and supplies. Does it make sense to go back to London? It's not really on the way. Yeah, I guess we'll just go directly. So when we pulled out of Whirlbury, it was like July 6th. So if we were to swing through London, I think we would get there when the 15 days were just about up. I'm just wondering if we want to try to push our ambition forward, or whether it probably Like, if the next step in our ambition is just to go to Pan, then it won't matter if we push it forward first, but if we have something else that we have to do in London, it would be best to swing through and pick up that quest. I guess we'll go through London real quickly here. If we haven't quite hit the 15 days, we will just fly in a circle around the dock until enough time has passed. I do sort of wish that there were options to just pass time, especially in a major port, you know? This seems like that ought to be a thing you can do. Just gonna sit there and let me shoot him, because I'm fine with that. I don't want to discourage him. Oh. Got a similar weapon. Oh hey, we leveled up. That is, in fact, our final level. We do not need to repair, so... Cabin has been packed with gravelly sky ice to keep it cold. Corpses hang from a rail. The cabin has been opened to the cold for the better preservation of the dead. The resurrectionists keep their handful of corpses admirably catalogued. The old dangle with the old, the young hang with the young. A neat logbook records their provenance and items collected. Okay, well, yeah, like I said, more than 40 Tales of Terror, so not exactly a valuable currency at this point. We can probably pick this up, I guess. Yeah, like, we didn't actually even gain terror. I thought I remembered getting hit with a boost of terror when we interacted with those, but yes, I was misremembering. Alright, let's spend our final character point. Do I want to, actually? Maybe we want to hold on to this so that we could pick up one of these things and drop a nightmare later if we need to. Because we don't really get a ton of stat benefit out of any of them. We could take Steam and Soot or the Black Sheep. No, I guess I would take Steam and Soot. If we were going to pick up stats, I would want it to be 5 iron and 3 mirrors, right? Or, veils. And again, it doesn't really fit with our character, but... yeah, you know what? We know how to get rid of nightmares. Let's just go ahead and do this. This way we're at 75 iron sitting, and we're very close to 75 veils as well. Alright. Sister Patel is pretty much stat capped then. We really have not seen any things that permanently increase your stats. Hopefully we won't run into any of that stuff that was slowly draining the Archivist stats over time. Felt like he was just getting weaker and weaker. Probably a good thing that he retired. Yeah, it can't have been much later than the 1st of July. The amount of time it takes to travel to Warlbury is about the same as the amount of time it takes to travel to the Mausoleum, right? I think those are roughly the same distance. So yeah, we're probably cool. By the time we actually make it back to the dock, I think we'll be alright. It did say 15 days. We might have to do one lap. Although, of course, a watch date never changes. Now that I'm staring at it in the corner, all of a sudden it seems like time isn't passing at all. Well, we'll swing into the port and see if enough time has passed, and if it hasn't, I'll just cut and fly in circles for a little bit by myself. Let's be honest, at this point in the series, I've subjected you all to quite enough boredom. Alright, let's see if the 14th is late enough. Nope, not yet. Okay, well, I'm gonna do that thing I just said. Be right back. Alright, well, it turns out I underestimated the speed of our engine a little bit, and the 18th was the fated day, but here we are. Questers from across the high wilderness have flocked to London below. Tournament, it's time for the tournament. Let's do the tournament. I'm a little nervous about this. This feels like the sort of place where we could lose our ambition. The grounds of the Queen's castle are transformed, birdsong drowned by a clamor of hammering and shouting, grass churned to mud by 1,000 heavy boots, fields blanketed by tents and banners in the vibrant colors of 1,000 knights. As you approach, a shaven-headed knight on horseback rides to meet you, eyes glittering. They greet you like an old comrade in arms. Though you both seek the cup and will compete today, the knight says, there is no need for enmity. The dark blade at their hip is identical to your own. Follow me, says the knight. The melee begins soon. I am seeing what really ought to be. The grand tournament stretches over countless acres of the Queen's gardens. The air is filled with song, laughter, and the roaring of crowds, occasionally the clash and clang of weaponry. Cooks are working tirelessly in the open air, roasting entire pigs on spits, mixing spices, baking crusty breads, and generally filling the air with a barrage of mouth-watering scents. Yes, I'm sure that's really what it smells like down here. The happy atmosphere among the spectators belies the tension among the knights. Each quester is determined to triumph and take up the completed minute to midnight. The day's first event is the melee, a brutal clash of hundreds of questers at once. Well, I just need to take a few minutes of midnight for my own and avoid getting knocked out. Yeah, like I said, we're going to probably want to rely on letting some other people aggregate the bits for us, and then we'll just take them from those guys. Alright, let's do it. The melee is a terrifying thing, like a monster in itself. A heaving mass of thrashing, convulsing armor. Occasionally, a battered knight will crawl out from among the stamping boots and collapse exhausted at the edge. Something isn't right. The knights seem to be fighting not with tourney weapons, but with the same swords they'd use in war. So where's the blood? If we fail to wade into the melee, the crash and screech of metal, the heat, the roar, the stamping thunder will suffer a setback, but we will not be kicked out of the tournament. I mean, I think we want to try to shake off what we can of the illusion here, right? We're going to be more successful at manipulating the situation if we know what the situation is. After a moment's consideration, you realize there are no swords, no deadly weapons. The questers are a mad, half-starved rabble. Now you can see clearly. You realize that the melee is not filled with armored knights. It is a sprawling collection of questers, most of them scrawny and dressed in tatters, battering each other with fists and sticks. The portrait of the unseen queen watches it all from atop a heightened throne. So we do have a better chance of... we're guaranteed success now. Yeah, alright, the questers might not be knights, but they are fanatical, and they're wielding an assortment of bizarre weaponry. You could still easily end up concussed. No, not Sister Patel. I've been punching weirdos in garbage heaps since before you were born. I don't know who the you in that sentence is. A hard-won victory. You pick up a plank of wood and charge into the thickest part of the battle, swinging indiscriminately at anyone who gets in your way. Well, I would like to imagine that Sister Patel would handle things a little more tactically. It is not glorious, it is not honorable, and it is certainly not enjoyable. By the end you have a colorful collection of bruises, a cut beneath your eye, and a bump on your head the size of an egg. But you leave the melee having knocked out a dozen other questers, and added their minutes to midnight to your collection. By any measure, that is a victory. Also, a Sky story. What is the story here? Would I really be eager to tell somebody, hey, one time I got in a fight with a bunch of homeless people in a garbage dump. That was pretty wicked. There are hundreds of questers wandering back and forth in the desolation, some more lucid than others. Most are miserable specimens, bleary-eyed, shivering, wearing threadbare rags. You pass one on his hands and knees, furiously gnawing at a freshly caught rat, and complimenting a non-existent chef. With the end of the melee, the questers have separated into dozens of smaller one-on-one bouts. So, here's a question. I don't actually know what the source of our shared delusion is, whether it's the cup or whether it's the unseen queen. It could be that the portrait of the unseen queen is a magical artifact that's very powerful in its own right. It could be that it is some sort of malign intelligence, not really an object in any meaningful sense at all. Who knows? Okay, so we could jump in, take part in the jousting. For some reason, this is a hearts check, and we're terrible at it. Could bring some of the other questers back to reality, try to shake people out of it. Just stand back and watch a fight, we could dedicate our performance to the unseen queen. A stroke of simple genius. How could the other questers have missed such an obvious way to stand out in the rankings? Well, I think I'd be more inclined to do this if I thought we were going to immediately take part in the bout. Let's try to wake up some of the other people here. They're much easier to defeat when they're not under the delusion that they're knights, but I'm also wondering if we can maybe encourage a few of them to just leave the battle, by snapping them back to reality. Maybe we could get ourselves some minutes to midnight without having to fight anymore. You roam across the wasteland, countering solitary questers and bombarding them with unpleasant truths. You attack the way they are dressed, you point out the inadequacy of their weapons, and you pick rubbish from the ground and hurl it in their faces. You manage to bring a few of the more weak-willed knights back to reality. As they stare around, blinking and confused, you punch them in the nose, just hard enough to further bewilder, and take their minute to midnight from their hands. It's a dirty tactic, but it works again and again. That right there seems very in character to me. Okay. So, every time I do that, we advance our standings, I guess, because we have the option again. Let's go ahead and dedicate our performance to the Unseen Queen. It seems like we're maybe going to do that a few more times. I'm curious what this option does first. The Unseen Queen can be found at the center of the tournament grounds, seated atop a tall throne and watching proceedings with an air of amused benevolence. At the most dramatically opportune moment, just before the bell rings for the next round of bouts, you kneel before her and pledge that all your victories will be inspired by her beauty. She leans down and hands you the token of her favor, a silk handkerchief. The approving roar of the crowd sweeps over you. Your next few bouts are easy to win. Rival questers see the silk handkerchief around your arm and they quail before you. Okay. So, finish the tournament by defeating the final champion. So, when we attempt to use subterfuge to manipulate the Unseen Queen herself, we end up getting drawn back into the fantasy. We have to be careful here. Remember that we are perhaps not the most capable at deception of all the people down here in this junk pile. The happy atmosphere among the spectators belies the tension among the knights. Alright, the tournament nears its end. Only 2 knights remain in the running. You have triumphed, collected more swords than any other competitor, except one. It is time to face your final opponent. Defeated, exhausted, the questers are collecting their equipment, bandaging their injuries, and heading home. Only a dedicated few will remain and watch the final bout. Welcome, one and all, to the final contest, declares the Unseen Queen from her lofty perch. Tonight, 2 titans will meet, 2 of the finest knights to ever serve my cause. Only one will wield the united minute to midnight and finally find the Martyr King's cup. The other finalist steps into the ring to face you. You recognize them immediately, the shaven-headed knight who greeted you at the gates. They bow and introduce themselves as Isery. Okay, we're slipping further and further into a world that no longer exists. I gotta try to shake myself out the moment I am able to do that. Isery is a knight in heavy steel mail, androgynous, alluring, their eyes glinting with the promise of violence. They've dropped the earlier camaraderie. Perhaps it was always a facade, or perhaps it has simply been muscled out by a desire to win. How shall we decide this? They ask, their hand at the hilt of their sword. Not that it matters. I can best you in any contest you care name. Well, our veils and our iron are both pretty high. Our iron is actually higher than our veils right now, right? So this duel of blades is just a very difficult one. So we could throw down with a Searing Enigma, but we have so much veils that we're guaranteed to win a duel in the dark. Turns out I'm pretty good at fighting blind. Isery's confident smile falters, but they rally magnificently. Once the blindfold is on, you listen carefully. You wait. You taste the air currents as they stir. And you strike. Isery whirls away, abandoning their assault, but you follow, jabbing blindly and viciously, until they cry for surrender. You lift your blindfold. Defeated, Isery drops to one knee and offers you their sword. The best knight won, they say. If you ever need me to wield a blade on your behalf, just ask. Got ourselves a Crimson Promise. We're not slipping any further into the fantasy world, I guess. The castle grounds gradually begin to empty once again. The remaining questers drift on the wind, suddenly bereft of purpose. A few knights remain to watch the ceremony, Isery among them. The unseen queen places a laurel wreath on your head and declares you the greatest knight who has ever lived. The celebrations last into the night, a feast followed by fireworks and wine. Okay, so what happens now? I am afforded a quiet moment with the queen. What do you think the odds are that this painting is also going to try to have sex with me? It just seems to be a popular theme lately. My servants will melt down all the minutes to midnight you collected today and forge them into a single blade, says the queen. Return to me in 2 weeks and the process should be complete. Again with that? Okay. All right, fine. Well, I guess we'll return in 2 weeks. So there is one more thing that I want to do. Hold on, did I? I did not search the undercarriage. Let's see if we can get ourselves 50 sovereigns again. Hooray, we pulled it off. Okay, there is a thing that we do need to do here, so let's go ahead and take care of that before we bring the episode to an end. I don't really need to do this, but let's go ahead and do this. Okay. Get away from the wall a little bit before I turn too much. Let's go to the Well of the Wolf, and I'm not actually super clear on what we're doing at the Well of the Wolf. Are we going over there for the purpose of getting the devil out of the well, or just, like, is the ceremony going to be over there? Because he's trapped in the well, so if the princess wants to marry him, it has to happen right outside the well? I don't know. I'm not, like, super worried if it's the latter. Maybe he'll insist that she go to live with him, and we can get rid of her without any undue consequences. Do not slam me against this wall. Alright, thank you. Every once in a while, they're polite enough not to make you think that they're just going to ram you. Well, I mean, I did for a minute there, but you know, eventually, to help you realize eventually that they are not going to just ram you. I will say, I've been having a lot of trouble with the Tachydes off camera during our travels around the Reach. Like, very aggressively pursuing me around the zone and, quote-unquote, accidentally bumping into me at high speeds over and over again. I may have killed a few out of frustration. Plus, I don't want to get in too friendly with the Tachydes. We saw what happens with the Archivist if you get those reputations pushed all the way to the edges. And I don't want to have to, like, dodge dreadnoughts every time I come back to London to see the Queen. Although I guess we're probably pretty close to done, right? And this time I totally remember what the date was. So she said 2 weeks from the 18th. But last time she said 2 weeks, what she actually meant was 15 days, so flying out to the Well of the Wolf and back is definitely not going to be enough time spent. Ah, well, I could, like, fly around and gather some port reports or something. We can do that off camera. So probably what we will do here is we'll hit the Well of the Wolf. We'll do whatever it is the princess needs to do there. And then we will end the episode and start up again with the next encounter in the Under London. But the Well of the Wolf is where we saw the demons dance, and we tried to figure out what their alphabetic dance might mean, right? So we actually could probably put that knowledge to use too. Trying to remain able to dodge if he should suddenly charge. Well, that wasn't even a charge, that was just like a really bad fly. I don't know what the hell he's doing. I guess he is mad. Also very loud. Just really extremely loud. I definitely do not want to overheat against these guys, because I do want to be able to dash out of the way if he should go for the charge. I don't know what the hell he's doing. He's just like perpetually hovering. Here we go. He's starting to wise up. So perpetually hovering at a range where my weapon is totally effective and his weapons don't work. Okay. That's That's still very strange. Well, we certainly don't need any hull. So what do we have here? A sky story or a tale of terror versus a single point of hull. I guess this is better. Only very slightly. Alright, the Sovereigns make it pretty obviously the right call. We could put 3 of those Sovereigns toward all of our repairs. The more I think about it, the more I think we probably will not go back to Eleutheria if we don't absolutely have to. I'm very, very curious what is going on in the Blue Kingdom and why it is so incredibly dangerous. Although obviously the outcome of finding out might just be that we end up losing this character after all of this hard work. Oh, I guess one good reason to go back to Eleutheria would be that there's that better plating available, right? And we could probably move stat points around enough to equip it now. Yeah, if I'm going into a place that I expect will be dangerous, maybe it's a good idea to get as well equipped as possible. Okay, so we want to be on the south edge, assuming the big rocky islands don't move around. Does it sound more menacing here than it did last time? Maybe that demon is, maybe that demon's getting a little fired up because he senses that the princess is near. Alright, let us descend through the gale. Okay, check it out. The driver's getting pretty good at this. So before we do this thing, which seems very important, let's approach the bandstand and try to get the devils to do the performance again. Yeah, your fragmentary knowledge of the dance alphabet may be able to discern some meaning. I'm very curious about this. The Hymn of Names. It is hard to see where a sigil begins and ends. Worse, their true meaning is hidden in the relationships between them. You are certain the rite is a lament, but struggle to identify who for, until you realize the congregation is using many names for one individual. You decipher them as best you can. The singular choir. No, the choir in one? The many-mouthed. The master of... oh, the king of celebrants. No, the king of carols. These are the names of the thing in the well. Oh, okay. That's interesting. So we've been hearing about this guy for a while, right? This is the guy who gave the chorister bees their voices and stuff. Okay. Well, I think we probably do not need to... oh, also, I just skipped past this blue text here. I read it, but not out loud. If we bring additional devils to join the choir, the congregation may be able to perform new hymns. I wonder if that's a reference to the repentant devil, or if, I'll be able to run devils out here in the same way that we're running new Street Line passengers around. I guess we'll see. Okay, so that's not new. I guess it's time for the big ceremony. The incognito princess is ready to be wed. She's the bride, she's ready. It'd be rude to keep her waiting, and you know what she does to people who she thinks are rude. Okay, there will be no turning back. Will you be a model guest, or will you interfere? I think Sister Patel knows enough about how out of her league she is here to try to just lay low during the ceremony. An audience of silent devils and singing bees watch the incognito princess approach the edge of the well. She says her vows with a feverish delight. I have learned of those who would prevent change, and how to thwart them. I have learned of sorrow, and will have sorrow no more. I have found the remains of my old self, and destroyed it to make way for the new. And, most of all, I have the most fantastic ring. Oh, that's right, we did have that ring made for her, didn't we? It's made of chorister bee souls, I think. She leans over the well further. I will be your queen, she screams. Will you be my king? A distant and incomprehensible bellow bursts from below. The princess takes it as a yes, and glances at you meaningfully. I am thinking, yeah, this is what I'm thinking. It would be rude and potentially fatal to do otherwise. I am here to obey the rules and get to leave. She slides the ring onto her finger and says, I do. Then the princess slowly ceases to be. Her transfiguration into the Queen of Bees would be the sort of thing you'd recount grandly to your peers' applause and wonderment, if only you could speak of it without shrieking. If you persisted with the foolhardy attempt, it's possible that during your gasping sobs, you may manage to share some of the awful details. It is unlikely anyone listening would thank you. The clearest moment in the kaleidoscope of memories is your own response to the impossibilities before you. What did you do? Ooh, okay. That's interesting. So, observed closely, I think, fits the character right. We're still driven by a desire to know things. Sister Patel is all about survival, but cowering is maybe a little much. She's smart, but she's also insecure in a way that makes her not... She doesn't want to show fear, even when she has it. Or we could just exult in her triumph. Listen, we are all out here. We are getting it. I'm doing whatever it is I'm doing with this devil. She's got her demon dude. Yeah, you know what? Like, sisterhood a little bit here. We are out here and we are taking control of the terror in the darkness. Actually, that's kind of interesting and might have been a motivation for us to agree to the Devil's Private Rendezvous in the first place. Like, gaining a sort of familiarity with the terrors in the dark that allows you to feel like you have some command of them. Because I think Sister Patel was probably starting to feel pretty helpless. We were encountering a lot of weird shit that we were clearly out of our depth on. But yeah, we exult in her triumph. You know, I'm not sure exactly what it is she's doing, and I'm absolutely terrified of her, but I am proud of her. She's getting what she wants, it seems like. When the world turned to horror, what could you do but cheer it on? She was a monster, becoming... But she was your monster becoming. As you collapsed, even as you lost her forever, you were closer to understanding her irresistible drive. When you recovered, the once princess, now queen, was gone, and only her empty skin remained. It followed you to your locomotive, beaming, ready to serve. Huh. What will you do with her skin? You have gained 20 terror. Is that all? Yeah, and you know what? I think that probably there's a kinship to be felt here, right? The princess went on her bizarre, quixotic quest that led her all over the sky, all over the multiple different skies, in order to achieve her crazy goal, and that's the same thing we're doing. Of course, Sister Patel would see a little bit of herself in this. Okay, well now we have the shed skin of the incognito princess, and then we're just going to go back to everything, just like everything's normal, sure. Okay, let's leave? Let's leave. Time to go. I have seen and heard enough. So hold on. Our Retronaut is not actually active anymore. Is the queen... Oh, her skin... Her skin is literally a thing. The sloughed skin of the incognito princess. It slithers around the locomotive, scaring the crew. The princess's cabin remains a macabre memorial for her departed majesty. The poetical suitor and the analytical suitor, now freed from their cages, look with devotion at the skin that's slinking behind you. "Oh, it would be an honor beyond all imagining to wear the skin of the divine princess," says the analytical suitor. Says the poetical suitor. "No," argues the analytical suitor. "I am the only logical choice." "You must pick me," they say simultaneously, frenzied with need. Why do we think that anybody gets to wear her skin? Right? Am I the only person who thinks that's crazy? Don't wear people's skin. So we could choose the poetical suitor, we could choose the analytical suitor. They both will become an officer that raises mirrors by 10 and one of our affiliations by 2, or we could destroy the skin because everything about this is just terrifying. I suppose it's not a decision we have to make right this second. In the meantime... Oh, we can only assign an officer when we're at port. Okay, in the meantime, let's get the hell back to London, and we'll figure things... You know what? I'll take care of that. You guys just relax, and try to forget what you've seen here. Thank you all so much for watching. Come back next time when, presumably, I will have made a decision about what to do with this living suit of skin. Thanks, game, for making me have to say that sentence. And we'll see you then.